Hey guys, this video is a follow-up to the Monster Studio A45 open air case review I did not too long ago. In the video, I showed an air-cooled and AIO liquid-cooled build which turned out great, and I think most people that end up buying the case are likely to do just that. However, when I first saw this case, air-cooled was not what I had in mind at all. Literally, the first second I laid eyes on this, my mind automatically thought about what are the ways I could custom water cool this. And I will say a lot of this build is mainly an art form, so some people will love it and some people are going to hate it. Like many other things, that is subjective. But since custom water cooling does take more effort, more time, and also the discussion for build options is more expansive, it is a good thing that I'm dedicating an entire video just on it. So I am not touching any of the basics for this case in this video because I had already gone over that in the review. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it down below so you can check it out later. Also, a quick mention to my sponsors, Monster Studio for sending me the A45 case, MSI for sending the MPG B760i Edge Wi-Fi motherboard, Corsair for sending the low-profile DDR5 Vengeance RAM kit, and Titan Rig for providing some of the water cooling hardware I used to make this video happen. Titan Rig is my go-to vendor for all my water cooling hardware as their customer service is fantastic and delivery time is fast. Also because I live 20 minutes away from them. Anyways, let's jump in. Chaptered out in this video, I'll go over the different ways that you can water cool the A45. But in order for me to do that, I have to go over the different ways you can mount your hardware. More specifically, the pump and reservoir units. And then afterwards, I'll go over the rest of the build with temperatures and noise. Let's talk about the radiator first. The A45's radiator mount can only handle 120mm variant hardware, so no 140mm just to be clear. In terms of orientation and sizes, you can either mount the radiator vertically or horizontally like so, and you can fit up to a huge 480mm rad like this 480 GTX Black Ice Nemesis from Hardware Labs, which is 54mm thick. It might look kind of silly or it might look kind of cool, and that's totally subjective to the individual. Same thing with this EKX 480M that's also 54mm thick. A note is that when you mount this horizontally, it will be back heavy and it will tilt. But if you have the rest of your system installed, the weight will balance out just fine. I will say mounting it vertically is better anyways from having a better center of gravity, and aesthetically, it looks so much better. It almost looks like an artillery cannon of some sort out of a sci-fi movie or something. Now moving on to the pump and reservoir mounting discussion. So in my mind, there are only two optimal ways to mount a pump res unit. The first is if you wanted to mount it to the top of your radiator and fans like this, whether it be a flat or cylindrical reservoir. Or second, you can go with something like a DDC 3-in-1 pump res and CPU water block combo like the EK Velocity 2, which is what I'm using. 3-in-1 units significantly reduces the overall space and hardware being used compared to if the CPU block was a separate unit to your pump res unit. Now going back to mounting the reservoir to the top of your radiator, you may notice that it makes the most sense if the radiator ports are up at the front rather than at the rear, because you'll just have an easier time routing your tubes to your CPU and GPU blocks. However, most pump res units designs are going to have their ports near the pump and or lower end of the hardware like this, which means routing the tubes will be a bit of a stretch to the top where your radiator ports are. Now, of course, if you're going soft tubing, this will be much easier and more flexible. Hard tubing will just take a bit more creativity on bends and fittings. With this in mind, a particular type of radiator that may make things partially easier is if you ran a cross-flow design where you have flow ports at both ends of the radiator, allowing you to run your tubes from your pump straight down to the bottom, and the coolant would just flow back up to the top through the radiator, giving you easier access to your CPU and GPU blocks. The only thing left is you'd still have one tube left to run back to the pump inlet, which may take some creativity to make it look good. What I did here is going with the shortest path and taking advantage of the 3-in-1 Velocity 2 block by doing a double T-fitting connecting the GPU to the radiator all together and back, all on the front and center. Personally, I think this is the best way to do it because it requires the least effort on tubing. As for the rest of the build, I went with a 14700K paired with an RTX 4090 Founders Edition, which is water-cooled on an EK Vector 2 block, and I also spray painted the backplate to silver along with the Velocity 2 3-in-1 CPU block as well to match the color theme. Fittings are the Quantum Torque Satin Titanium, also from EK with 14mm tubings, and the coolant is also from EK's Solid White Premix. Everything is powered by the Fantex Revolt 1000 watt PSU with cable mod custom cables, making it look really good and even better with the A45 cable shielding on the side that makes the profile view have a cleaner look. Now, I also want to add that the cable cover panel is a very tight fit with ATX power supplies if you end up getting one. An SFX power supply is a much better way to go. Fans are Fantex D30s, which were the best fans I found to use in this build since they are daisy chainable via the connectors here without any cables showing except for the one fan at the end, which I ended up being able to just tuck in between the PSU and radiator. Something I realized with the case is that when fully built, with what I have here, there is some flex with the frame as you can see with the weight of the system pulling down on that left panel. However, I can assure you that it will hold up just fine even over time. As for temperatures, I just decided to play an hour of Resident Evil 3 Remake at 4K Ultra settings and the 4090 never went past 61 degrees. Ambient room temperature was 22 degrees and I had the fans custom set to 60% RPM flat while my pump is at 50% because I always prefer my system to be at a constant noise level no matter what my workload is. And lastly, here's the noise level which floats around 43.5 dB. Thanks for watching.